Dear friends, today I'm going to share 12 rules with you that could change your life. $78,233. That's how much the average American household spent on consumer expenses in 2024. Also, in 2024, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, wages increased by 3.8%. Spending, however, increased by 5.1%. Slow down and calculate it carefully. Because the numbers are whispering this, the gap between what Americans earn and what they spend has grown even larger. So the problem is not how much you earn. Because a large portion of that $78,233 looked like reasonable spending with logical calculations 5 years ago. But what happens if, when we look at it now, those expenses are directly working against us? If you currently use food delivery apps, have subscriptions to more than 2 digital streaming platforms, or bought a brand new car in the last 3 years, this video may make you uncomfortable. Financial awareness begins exactly with that discomfort. 12 categories. All of them silently draining accounts in the background in ways most people never sit down and calculate. By the end of this video, you'll notice these categories differently. And the total will surprise you. This video is not about inflation. Inflation is real, but it's not the whole story, and blaming everything on inflation makes people miss the actual mechanism. Since 2019, something more specific has happened. Corporate pricing strategy evolved much faster than consumer awareness. Subscription models were designed to operate through psychological inertia. Convenience fees were structured to appear small individually while becoming a heavy burden in total. Planned obsolescence was built into product cycles to guarantee repurchasing at a time you did not choose. The economy you learned about in your 20s no longer operates under the same rules. The companies taking money from your paycheck understand behavioral economics far better than most consumers do. That's the real problem. Information asymmetry. What this video does is close that asymmetry category by category. Not with vague advice. With concrete mathematics that changes everything once it reveals the true face of these expenses. The 12 categories ahead represent between $15,000 and $25,000 a year spent on things that deliver only a tiny fraction of the value they claim. Even redirecting half of that amount at an 8% return over 30 years creates roughly $400,000 in additional wealth. This is not a lifestyle adjustment. This is a retirement. Let's begin. In 2019, a family of 4 could eat out twice a week, subscribe to Netflix, drive a reasonably new car, and order takeout on busy nights, and all of it comfortably fit within a middle-class budget. In 2026, those exact same behaviors cost 40% to 60% more than they did back then. The behaviors didn't change. The price tags did. What makes this truly dangerous is not a single category. The real danger is multiple categories operating simultaneously, each feeling normal on its own while silently preventing wealth accumulation. 1. Food delivery apps. You already know DoorDash charges fees. But what's the mechanism creating the cost? Here's the mechanism most people miss. Before any fee even appears on your screen, the 15% to 30% commission platforms charge on every order has already been built into restaurant menu prices. That difference is invisible. It's embedded into the price before you even open the app. Then the visible fees begin. Delivery fee, service fee, small order fee if you don't meet the minimum threshold, surge pricing during busy hours, courier tip. The meal you buy at the restaurant for $12 arrives on your phone costing $22. An 83% price increase before you've consciously made a single decision about whether it's worth paying. According to research from Gordon Haskett Research Advisors, delivery app pricing increased an additional 8% to 12% between 2023 and 2025 alone, on top of already inflated menu prices. The gap between app pricing and dine-in pricing is not shrinking. It is designed to grow. Ordering food delivery twice a week with an additional $15 cost per order creates an annual cost of $1,560. That's the extra cost above picking up the same meal yourself or cooking at home. Invested over 20 years at an 8% annual return, that $1,560 per year becomes approximately $77,800. The apps understand the psychology here better than most users do. DashPass and similar subscriptions do not save money. They remove the psychological friction of per-order fees, increasing order frequency instead. You're paying $96 a year for the privilege of ordering more frequently on platforms where prices are still inflated. The countermeasure is remarkably simple. Treat delivery not as a default option, but as an emergency option. A 10-minute drive to pick up food or a 20-minute homemade meal costs dramatically less. Convenience is real. The question is this: did you consciously decide that convenience was worth $77,800 over 20 years? Or did the habit form before you calculated the number? 2. Brand new cars. The depreciation curve on a new car remains one of the best documented wealth destroyers in personal finance and one of the most ignored. The moment a new vehicle leaves the dealership lot, it loses roughly 20% of its value. On a $48,000 vehicle, close to the 2026 average new car price, that means $9,600 evaporates before you even reach the first traffic light. By the end of the first year, depreciation typically reaches 25% to 30%. Your $48,000 asset is now worth between $33,000 and $36,000. That loss occurred while you were driving to work. With financed purchases, which describes the overwhelming majority of new car buyers, the problem immediately becomes negative equity. You owe more than the vehicle is worth. You're trapped in the loan. You can't sell without covering the difference in cash. The vehicle sold as a symbol of freedom of movement becomes a financial trap. Data on millionaire vehicle behavior shows something interesting. The typical American millionaire drives a Toyota, Honda, or Ford. The average price they pay for a vehicle is $31,367. Not because they can't afford more, but because they understand transportation is not a status symbol, it's a tool that gets you from one place to another. A 5-year-old vehicle has already experienced the steepest part of its depreciation curve. It usually doesn't require major repairs yet. Modern vehicles can run between 150,000 and 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. Buy a clean 5-year-old car, drive it for 4 years, and sell it before major maintenance becomes likely. Your depreciation during that period will be dramatically lower than what new car buyers experience. In many cases, you can sell it for close to what you paid. According to Edmunds, the average monthly payment on a new car loan reached $738 by the end of 2025. That equals $8,856 a year before insurance, fuel, and maintenance costs. Someone who buys a used car with cash eliminates that payment entirely and can redirect roughly $9,000 a year into actual wealth accumulation. Over the course of a working career, that one decision is worth more than most people's 401k contributions. In 2026, brand new cars are financial sinkholes carrying the aesthetics of a lifestyle upgrade. 3. Sit-down restaurants. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, restaurant prices have risen 35% since 2019. A burger at an ordinary sit-down restaurant now costs between $16 and $22 in most markets. Add a drink and a shared appetizer, and you're approaching $40 before tip for a single person. A modest dinner with drinks for two ranges between $100 and $140. That same dinner cost $50 to $60 5 years ago. The beverage markup is where restaurants actually survive. A $14 martini contains roughly $2 worth of ingredients. A $4 soda costs the restaurant about 15 cents. These extras exist for a reason. Food margins have shrunk so much that the food itself often operates near break-even. You are not paying for a $140 dinner. You are subsidizing a business model sustained by the markup on your drinks. The time cost exceeds the financial cost. A sit-down dinner takes between 90 minutes and 2 hours. The same quality meal can be prepared at home in 30 minutes with fresh ingredients at a quarter of the price. This is not an opinion. It is a mathematical reality. A family spending $200 a week dining out in a major city spends $10,400 a year. That same family, eating consciously at home, can eat healthier with $600 to $700 a month in groceries while saving more than $3,000 annually and recovering roughly 100 hours otherwise spent waiting for restaurant checks. Celebration meals are worth the cost. But in 2026, weekly restaurant habits are not. 4. Digital streaming subscription bundles. The streaming revolution promised a simple trade: cut cable, pay $8 a month, and access everything. That offer no longer exists. Netflix Standard Plan, $15.49 per month. Disney Plus, $13.99. Hulu, $17.99. HBO Max, $15.99. Amazon Prime Video, $8.99. Apple TV Plus, $9.99. Peacock, $7.99. Paramount Plus, $11.99. Subscribing to all major platforms now costs over $100 a month, more than $1,200 a year. More than many households once paid for cable television. This fragmentation is not accidental. Content licensing was deliberately structured so that no single platform would ever be sufficient. The show you want moves from Netflix to Peacock. The movie you're waiting for lands on a platform you don't have. Sports require separate packages. Together, they recreated the cable bundle, except now you pay for every piece individually and call it streaming. According to Deloitte's 2025 Digital Media Trends Report, the average American household subscribes to 4.5 streaming platforms, spending between $60 and $75 per month, around $900 a year on platforms whose primary interest is preventing cancellation. The countermeasure requires one behavioral shift most people resist: sequential subscriptions instead of simultaneous ones. Subscribe to one platform, watch everything on your list, cancel it, then move to the next one. The content does not disappear. Your access is delayed by a few weeks, not permanently lost. This method costs $12 to $18 a month instead of $75. Same content. But platforms receive $200 a year instead of $900. The game is designed for passive subscribers. Winning requires the one thing the interface is specifically designed to prevent: active decision-making. 5. Fast food. Fast food's value proposition was never nutrition. It was always one thing: cheap calories, quickly. Remove the cheapness and the proposition collapses entirely. A Big Mac meal at McDonald's now costs between $12 and $15 in most markets in 2026. A Chipotle bowl approaches $15. Taco Bell, historically the bottom of fast food pricing, now charges $10 to $12 for a basic combo meal. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, fast food prices have increased 55% since 2019. Menu prices alone rose roughly 10% in 2023. For $15, you can prepare a home-cooked meal using real ingredients: protein, vegetables, grains with genuine nutritional value, and enough quantity to feed 2 people. The time difference is far smaller than fast food marketing implies. A simple home meal takes 15 to 20 minutes. Once you include driving, waiting, and returning from a drive-thru, the total time becomes nearly identical. A habit of eating fast food 3 to 4 times per week costs between $3,000 and $5,000 annually, depending on market and order size. That money is spent on food that is expensive by historical standards, nutritionally poor by health standards, and engineered to leave you hungry again within hours. Fast food was rational at $4 to $6 per meal. At $13 per meal, it fails nearly every value test except speed, and even the speed advantage has narrowed dramatically. 6. Latest generation technology. A new iPhone costs roughly $1,200. It takes slightly better photos than the model released 2 years ago. It runs the same apps at speeds the human perceptual system can barely distinguish. It sends the same emails. The marginal improvements between smartphone generations no longer scale proportionally with price. The iPhone 16 and iPhone 13 offer differences most users cannot identify in blind daily use testing. The cameras are technically superior. The experience is functionally equivalent. What has remained proportional to the price is the production of upgrade pressure. Software updates are released in ways that reduce battery performance on older devices documented, not speculative. Repair costs are structured to approach replacement costs. Accessories are redesigned to ensure incompatibility. The ecosystem is engineered to make using a 2-year-old device feel like a deliberate inconvenience rather than a rational financial choice. A refurbished iPhone 14 currently sells for roughly half the price of a new iPhone 16. It runs every app, connects to every network, and takes photos that are practically indistinguishable in daily use. Someone upgrading to a new flagship phone every 2 years spends roughly $600 annually in depreciation alone, invested at an 8% return over a 30-year career. That becomes approximately $73,000. Research suggests this amount is sacrificed for photos that are perhaps 3% sharper. What's being purchased is not technology. What's being purchased is a status signal. Understanding that distinction does not make the signal wrong. It makes the price visible. 7. Expensive weddings. This is the category most financial content avoids because the surrounding industry is enormous, emotionally charged, and spends aggressively to protect the cultural narrative around it. According to the Knott's 2024 Real Wedding Study, the average American wedding cost roughly $35,000 in 2024. That's $35,000 for one day. One event. 6 hours of your life. The wedding industry operates through a single pricing mechanism. Add the word wedding to any product or service, and the price doubles or triples. A photographer charges $2,000 for family portraits, but $5,000 for weddings. Flowers costing $300 for a normal event become $1,200 for a reception. A venue rented for $500 for a corporate event charges $5,000 when it becomes a wedding. The quality of the product does not change. The label changes. Research from Emory University found that couples spending $50,000 or more on weddings had a 46% higher divorce rate than couples spending less than $10,000. Correlation is not necessarily causation. Financial stress may independently contribute both to higher spending and marital strain, but the pattern is consistent enough to deserve attention. Beginning a marriage, the very relationship research consistently identifies as most threatened by financial pressure, with $35,000 less in savings or $35,000 more in debt receives far less scrutiny than it deserves before deposits are even paid. A courthouse wedding is legally equivalent to a $35,000 ceremony. A backyard dinner with close friends creates memories just as permanent as a 200-person catered reception. Marriage is the institution. The wedding is the party. If you can fund a $35,000 wedding entirely from existing savings without affecting retirement contributions, emergency reserves, or near-term financial goals, spend whatever you want. That's a personal decision. But if the financing mechanism involves credit cards, depleted savings, or delayed homeownership, then you are trading long-term structural security for 6 hours of spectacle. No matter how beautiful the photos are, they do not compound at 8% annually. 8. Luxury travel. Travel has real value. Experiences accumulate in ways possessions often cannot. Exposure to different environments, cultures, and contexts produces measurable psychological benefits. This is not an argument against travel. It is an argument against debt-financed travel. Airfare has increased 30% to 40% since 2019. A domestic round-trip flight that once cost $250 now costs $350 to $400. A one-week vacation for 2 flights, hotel, food, activities now reaches $4,000 to $6,000 without extravagant choices. According to travel industry data, a family trip to Disney World averages $8,000 to $10,000 for a single week. For a household earning $70,000 annually, that Disney trip represents roughly 14% of gross income. After taxes, it approaches 20% of net income for 7 days. Bankrate's 2025 Emergency Savings Report found that most Americans could not cover an unexpected $1,000 expense using existing savings. The same population is financing vacations costing thousands of dollars on credit cards charging 24% interest. The vacation ends. The interest payments do not. Budget-conscious travel preserves the real value of travel, the experience, the change of environment, while removing the financial mechanism that turns memories into debt. Road trips cost a fraction of flights. An Airbnb at the destination costs less than a resort, while often creating a more authentic local experience. The memories from a $1,500 trip and a $6,000 trip are not proportionally different. The credit card statements are: traveling within your means creates genuine enjoyment. Traveling beyond your means creates statements arriving long after the photos stop feeling worth it. 9. Buy now, pay later financing. Affirm, CLA, Afterpay. The pitch is simple: 4 payments, no interest if paid on time, no money up front. The mechanism behind the pitch is more specific. These platforms exist because they are profitable. They are profitable because they successfully encourage spending that would not occur under normal payment conditions. Research shows buy now, pay later users spend 10% to 40% more than they would paying upfront. The psychological explanation is simple: a $200 purchase triggers loss aversion. For $50 payments feel like 4 small decisions instead of one large one. Your brain processes the smaller number. The total disappears. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York Consumer Survey, nearly 40% of buy now, pay later users missed at least one payment. Late fees accumulate. Some platforms apply interest to remaining balances after missed payments. Financing presented as free transforms into debt carrying effective interest rates exceeding 30%. Personal finance contains an old principle that has never been improved upon: if you cannot pay cash for something, you cannot afford it. Exceptions exist. A primary residence. A vehicle that enables income generation. Sneakers financed in 4 installments are not exceptions. Kitchen appliances purchased in installments are not exceptions. These are consumption items. Debt used for consumption is the most expensive form of debt because the asset securing the loan immediately loses value and produces no income. Buy now, pay later platforms are not financial services. They are behavioral engineering systems designed to remove friction at the exact moment of purchase to generate spending that otherwise would not occur. Their business model is built on the gap between what you want today and what you can actually afford. 10. Branded products. A bottle of Tide laundry detergent costs $12 to $15. The store brand equivalent, often produced in the same facility using the same process, costs $6 to $8. Consumer Reports blind testing across product categories has consistently found store brand products performing equally or better than name brands in most head-to-head comparisons. The active ingredient in generic ibuprofen is chemically identical to the active ingredient in Advil. The FDA requires this. Yet the price is often half as much. The premium price paid for Advil funds the marketing campaign convincing you that Advil is superior, not superior product development. This pattern exists throughout the grocery store: pasta sauce, cereal, cleaning supplies, over-the-counter medicine, paper products, canned foods. Brand names demand premiums reflecting advertising budgets, not product quality. You are paying for the campaign designed to convince you the product is worth the premium. The logic is circular by design. The average American household spends between $5,000 and $7,000 annually on consumer packaged goods. Consistently switching to store brands across categories saves 25% to 40%. That leaves $1,500 to $2,500 annually in your pocket for products performing equivalently by independent testing standards. Designer clothing pushes this dynamic to its logical extreme. A plain hoodie from a luxury brand costs between $800 and $200. The same hoodie without the logo costs $40 to $60. The difference in cotton weight and craftsmanship is marginal and well documented. The price difference is not a quality premium. It is a logo licensing fee paid by you to advertise someone else's brand on your own clothing. Status consumption is not new, but the scale and transparency of how brands exploit it in 2026 is. 11. Subscription boxes. The subscription box industry has reached $32 billion in annual revenue. Beauty products, books, snacks, wine, dog toys, razors, clothing you didn't choose, hobby supplies you may never use. The model works because of a specific psychological mechanism. Humans are disproportionately rewarded by anticipation. The dopamine response triggered by anticipating a surprise package is neurologically similar to the response triggered by gambling. Uncertainty itself becomes the source of pleasure. Subscription box companies sell anticipation. The contents become secondary. The math reflects this. A typical subscription box costs between $25 and $50 monthly. Are the products inside technically worth slightly more than the subscription price? Perhaps marginally, but not meaningfully more, because the margin between subscription price and product cost is how the company earns profit. Most of the time, you are paying for products you did not specifically choose, arriving when you may not need them, through a service intentionally designed to make cancellation difficult. Industry research on subscriber behavior found that a significant percentage of active subscribers receive multiple consecutive boxes without opening them. The subscription continues. Charges appear on credit card statements. Boxes continue accumulating. If you want specific products, buying them directly is cheaper than receiving them inside a curated package alongside products you didn't want. And if the surprise itself is what you're purchasing, then opening the box is the dopamine hit. Recognize that you are paying a recurring entertainment fee, not saving money on products. Subscription boxes are not discovery services. They are behavioral customer attention systems disguised as gifts to yourself. 12. Premium coffee drinks. A customized espresso drink at Starbucks costs between $7 and $9 in most markets in 2026. A daily habit, one drink 5 weekdays plus occasional weekend visits, reaches approximately $2,190 annually. Coffee brewed at home from quality beans costs between 25 cents and 50 cents per cup. Even specialty single-origin beans from respected producers rarely exceed $1 per cup when brewed at home. Annual cost of a daily home coffee habit, between $180 and $365. The difference, roughly $1,800 to $2,000 per year compounded at 8% over 30 years, becomes approximately $245,000. $250,000. For coffee. Starbucks is not selling coffee. It is selling an environment, a social ritual, convenience, and a status signal delivered in a cup. If that package genuinely creates $2,190 worth of value in your life annually, then that is a conscious and defensible decision. The problem is that most people never consciously made that decision. The habit formed before the calculation. The calculation changes how the habit feels. In one version, the daily coffee shop visit is a deliberate, budgeted choice that creates real value. In the more common version, it is an automatic behavior costing $245,000 over a working lifetime that nobody explicitly approved. The difference between those two versions is not coffee. It is whether the math was done first. 12 categories. Look at what they all share. Every item on this list exploits one of 4 mechanisms: convenience, status, psychology, or inertia. Delivery apps exploit convenience. New cars exploit status. Buy now, pay later exploits psychology. Subscription boxes exploit inertia. Most items exploit multiple mechanisms simultaneously. Every item on this list has experienced price increases since 2019 that exceeded both inflation and wage growth. None of them increased in value proportionally. In most cases, prices rose while value declined. And every item on this list structurally depends on consumers not calculating the numbers. The business models work because the costs are distributed, hidden, or framed in ways that prevent clear calculation. A $15 delivery fee feels different from $1,560 annually. A $738 monthly car payment feels different from $8,856 annually before operating costs. A $75 streaming bill feels different from paying $900 a year for content accessible through sequential subscriptions costing $150. Now calculate the total. A household using all 12 categories regularly, not extravagantly, just conventionally, likely spends between $18,000 and $28,000 annually beyond what alternative behaviors would cost to achieve the same outcomes. At an 8% annual return over 30 years, Redirecting $23,000 annually from these categories compounds into approximately $2.8 million. That is not a rounding error. That is the financial difference between two versions of the same life, one spending unconsciously, the other making deliberate decisions. You just did something most people actively avoid. You calculated the numbers. Not the individual numbers, anyone can access those. The total. The compounded cost. The 30-year picture of what conventional unconscious spending actually costs over a working lifetime. None of the 12 categories in this video are inherently wrong. Travel, dining out, technology, some of these can absolutely be real investments in quality of life when the decision is conscious, when the math is visible, and when the financial structure supporting it is strong enough. The question was never whether anyone should spend money on these things. The question was whether you consciously decided to, or whether the spending simply happened while your attention was elsewhere. Your money operates on a simple binary. It either strengthens your own position or someone else's. And in 2026, the gap between those two outcomes is wider than at any point in recent history. One step for this week: open your last 3 months of bank and credit card statements. Identify which of these 12 categories appear. Calculate the annual cost of each one. Do not make any decisions yet, just make the number visible. Awareness comes first. Now you have the information.